Good morning, San Diego. I'm Ron Swanson. Especially Ron Burgundy. Ron Swanson.
You can't even get the reference right.
No.
What is the matter with you?
All right, welcome back to The Plan with Keith Wilson and Mr. Anthony Ruffalo, CFP. Go ahead and say
Certified
financial planner.
Anthony Ruffalo, certified financial planner. So we're going to get into the 401k distribution phase. The whole point of accumulating in a 401k throughout the course of your career is to ultimately create retirement income. If you remember, like the whole point, like we used to have pensions. Our parents and grandparents had pensions, which created guaranteed income for 20, 25, 30 years of retirement.
How many people you think have pensions today?
I don't.
Take a guess.
30% of the population.
Less than 20%.
Okay.
That's according to Fidelity. Less than 20% of folks today have a pension.
Well, I'd like the opportunity to hire my own expert and question the veracity of that study because I don't buy it.
You don't buy it?
No.
Look it up.
Huh?
Look it up.
Of the work, I would like to know of the people that are employed. How many people are pension eligible? Because
less than 20%.
I find
it's mainly government.
I find that right, which is they're the largest employers in every single state across the country.
I'm telling you, it's less than 20%.
And then the federal employees are a significantly less number than state employees.
Let's Google it up.
It's totally irrelevant to the podcast.
It is relevant because you were just talking about pensions.
Yeah. The whole point is creating guaranteed income like a pension. That's what a 401k is for.
How many people have a pension? Siri. Here it is. Just 22%. I just asked Siri.
Right.
Just 22% of working people today have pensions.
Hey Siri, how many total state employees are there in the entire United States? Without counting public schools and hospitals, the Bureau of Labor and Statistics estimate the state and local governments employ 14 million people in the U.S., with 10 million of those working for local governments. So 14 million people. Okay, that's actually lower because I'm thinking if we have a labor force of 150 million, that's probably it's a little under 10%.
Yes.
10%.
Yes.
When you add in federal,
to my point,
federal are about 2 million.
Around 20% of the working class
I stand
have
corrected.
a pension.
I stand corrected.
You know, it's hard to be humble, isn't it?
No, not at all. It's fine.
Okay.
I can be wrong.
The whole point about the pension thing is they're not around like grandma used to have.
Exactly.
And people, that's why they came out with a 401k well before I was born.
Baloney.
No, I was
1980.
Yeah, I know. I was born in 82.
Keep going.
That's when I was born.
So
that's why they developed the 401k to put the burden on the employee to make a defined contribution into it.
Gotcha.
But here's the point. You've come to the place in your life where you're retired, and we've got to unwind that 401k and make some distributions so you can live.
Okay, so let's talk about unwinding this thing and let's get to the meat and potatoes. So, real simple. Let's say you've been disciplined and you're age 65 and you've accumulated $3 million. Now, we're not going to talk about the tax. Could be Roth, could be 100% tax-free, could be pre-tax, could be a combination of after-tax dollars. We're not going to talk about taxes. We're just talking about gross distributions as a hypothetical. So, let's say you've accumulated $3 million in your 401k, and we're going to set your withdrawal rate in your first year retirement at 5%.
Well, that goes against the 4% rule.
Right, which is fine. So we're going to set your withdrawal rate at 5%, and we're also going to assume, based on Vanguard's study of a 60-40 portfolio, that you get annual returns of 6.9% annually. So we're going to run through a spreadsheet that we created. It's very linear. We're going to assume that you have linear returns. Obviously, we know that returns aren't linear, and there is volatility, which is why you hire a financial advisor to help you manage sequence of return risk. But we're not getting into all of that. We're just going to look at a distribution spreadsheet to see what is hypothetically possible. So in year one, your first distribution would be $150,000. At the end of that year, your balance would grow to back to a little over $3 million after you earn your interest and you take your withdrawal.
The hypothetical interest.
Then next year, at age 66, now your distribution would be $154,500 because we're adjusting it for 3% inflation. If you know anything about the price of eggs or gas or milk or Keith's medications, you know that they increase each year. So you would take
I've got a discount card. I've got a good RX discount card.
I'm trying to get through this podcast.
I know.
You're not.
I'm kind of lightening it up with all your numbers.
Well,
Go ahead.
So your second year it would be 154.5. You take your withdrawal, you earn a little bit of interest, and then your end of year balance, you're left with again a little over $3 million. So your balance is around flat-ish, even though you've just received $254,000 in income over your first 2 years in retirement. Again, we're not talking about sequence of returns. Obviously, some years you're going to get a double-digit returns, like the last 2 years that we've had in the markets, and then rewind 3 or 4 years ago, there could be double-digit negative returns. The key to retirement is managing that sequence of return risk. Now, Keith, fast forward, look at year 10. Where are we at?
I can't see that.
Year 10.
All right, in year 10, we've got an ending balance of $3.3 million. So we're still seeing growth in the account.
Yeah, it's hypothetical in nature because you're earning 6.9% and you're only withdrawing 5.
Okay, it's pretty freaking simple.
Pretty cut and dry. Pretty simple, people.
It's just a standard spreadsheet just to show you what these numbers look like.
Right. So in a perfect world, again, so let's fast forward. Let's say you followed this plan and it worked out perfect. And you did that for 20 years, and then at age 86, you died. So you received a total of $4.5 million in withdrawals or income from the 401k, and you'd still have, hypothetically, if you're getting those returns of 6.9% annually, $3 million left in the account. Now, Keith, at age 86, let's say this was in your name. You die at 86. Your wife Sarah. What is she left with? What happens now?
Oh, I would have divorced her before then, so she wouldn't get that money.
That's terrible. You're a horrible human being. You know that, and I hope she doesn't listen to this podcast because you're not even gonna be sleeping on the couch. You're gonna be sleeping in a hotel tonight.
Well, I got an attic that's really nice
with no air conditioning.
No, it's got air.
Cranking it up.
It's just got a little skylight, so it's hard to escape.
She's going to swap your.
No, if the question is, if you pass away, obviously your spouse is going to. If you named a beneficiary, which is very important,
right?
In your example,
it's not that obvious.
Do what?
It's not that obvious.
If you named a beneficiary.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I was throwing you the softball of beneficiary naming and the difference between spousal and non-spousal, but you
blew it.
So let's try it again. Hey, Keith, what happens if you die at age 86, hypothetically, and your account balance is hypothetically $3 million?
If you named a beneficiary.
And would be, who did you name as your beneficiary?
Well, hopefully your spouse, if you're married.
Right. Hopefully you're still married after this.
Hopefully, yes.
Right?
Where are you going with that? I don't understand what you're saying.
I'm just wondering if you're going to be single.
Well, if I'm 86 and I got 3.1 million.
I think you'll still be looking good at 86.
I think so.
It's only 2 years away. Best looking 84-year-old I know.
The point is the importance of naming a beneficiary, so your spouse would now inherit that.
Right.
And the spousal inheritance rules are different. They don't have to get it out in 10 years and all that. They just take it over.
Okay, but let me ask you a question. Let's say you had a 401k in your name and you died. There's $3 million in there. Your wife, Sarah, is named as beneficiary. She now inherits it. She gets $3 million. Can she continue receiving the same level of income that you were getting?
Sure. Well, yeah, she's going to take that 5% and start it all over.
Could she take more?
She can do whatever she wants. She can take more, and I would encourage her to do so, because if I die at 86 and she inherits that, now's the time for her to live it up, because she's been under my thumb for 60 years. So she's going to go out and buy that Cartier watch that she really wants.
Gotcha.
That I did not get her for her birthday.
That's good. You're a curmudgeon.
And I've heard about it.
Gotcha.
I didn't know that she wanted a Cartier watch, and she said, well, it was, months ago she showed me, and I said, I thought you were kidding. I thought you were kidding. I even wrote it down in my diary that night. Sarah told a very funny joke that she wanted a Cartier watch. But I did get her some chocolate-covered cherries. It's still unopened. But anyway, she could inherit. She's the beneficiary. She takes whatever she wants. At age 86, I'd be spending whatever.
No, you wouldn't go into preservation mode so your children just have more money?
Well, why don't you just set that aside? You could split that IRA and say, this part of it pocket, I'm not going to touch. I'm going to spend down on the other pocket. Or you can segment it inside the 401k IRA already. Speaking of segment, let's talk about, you were showing something very linear. Very linear. I'm 65, whatever's in the 401k, I'm going to distribute 5% of that, and each year I'm going to adjust that figure by inflation. In my opinion, and in my practice, and in my vast experience, that doesn't happen. What I see is early on, they call it the go-go years. For the first 7 to 10 years, people are going to spend more money. And in my experience, when we set up the income plan, they say, yeah, I can live on X number of dollars to pay the light bill, to go out to eat, do shopping, or so forth. But wait a minute, I want to go on this cruise. I want to do something extra that's not part of income. That's a goal that I'm going to take a lump sum out.
Right.
So in my experience, people are withdrawing more like 7% in the first several years, because hopefully they're still young enough and they're healthy enough to enjoy it. And then what I see is when they get to around mid-70s, 73, 75, slows down. How many cruises can you go on? Things like that. And then that withdrawal rate, now they're just, withdrawing to live and buy groceries and things like that.
Right. So
Then once you hit the 80s, like your example of 86 and me passing away, but wonder if I went to a long-term care facility at age 85. That's when withdrawal rates really pop up if you're self-funding long-term care. I call it the smile. You're spending more in the early, not so much in the middle, more in the late because of healthcare costs. So some of these things you got to adjust on the fly.
Yeah. If I was your kid, what I would do is I would take you to doggy daycare for about $35 a day.
I think they're more than that.
No, you can find it for 30.
I would.
30,
No, I would.
just doggy daycare.
They would have to put me in.
Not boarding. Boarding. I mean, we could board
doggy
you.
daycare.
Yeah, we could board you for I think $84 a day.
I see. As long as you put me in the
Nice
kennel
little
with
cat condo
with a Great Danes. No, not cats.
So I think what you're referring to is what is affectionately referred to by a lot of advisors as the go-go years, the slow-go years, and then the no-go years. And we've really been getting into designing plans because it's all about what?
The plan.
It's all about the plan. We wind up designing retirement income distribution plans around go, slow-go, no-go in order to accelerate. Because people are like, I saved a lifetime. I've got a couple of $1 million, and I want to spend more now while I can scuba dive. I want to spend more now while I'm physically able to hike Machu Picchu, and that costs more money. When I know that we understand that it possibly puts you in jeopardy of running out of money? Because at some point it's unsustainable.
Well, that's where the plan comes. So in our financial planning software, we allocate that. I do. I show segments of withdrawals. I show I call it retirement lifestyle goals that may, for the first 15 years, we're going to withdraw another 15,000 out to do whatever, the cruises, and we adjust it for inflation. And then we show the slow go years where it's reduced. And what's the probability of success? Is this doable or not?
Right.
But it all comes back to the plan.
And the plan, really, the most critical component, after you've mapped out, hey, what am I going to accelerate with withdrawals? The most critical component is now managing the sequence of return risk, which we're not going to cover in this video. But managing the sequence of return risk in retirement is the absolute most critical part of your distribution plan.
Which would have taken place well before the retirement day.
To me, it's pretty simple. It's how much do you want to spend and why? That's lifestyle questions. And then it's how are we going to invest the money appropriately to protect against sequence of returns in order to make this your plan, which is based around your lifestyle, possible. And we do our best. It's not always perfect. Sometimes we can't actually get it to match up perfectly, but we try as much as possible to match those two to make whatever clients want happen.
Anyway, 401k distributions, when it comes time, you retire, these are some things to consider. Your withdrawal rate, the sequence of withdrawals. Do we want to pull out more in the early years, less in the middle years, and plan for the long-term care event possibly down the road? Sometimes things happen, even in retirement, that requires a change. That's why it's always important to have a financial advisor and always important to have the plan.
Hard work really does come and pay off. Every day working, we don't really need no days off. It was a struggle, but thank God that we stand tall. Now we pulling up, looking strong like we gonna brawl. They be lucky if they standing on 10 toes. They don't know how we roll, but they gonna know.